The Galactic Academy's most feared examination chamber hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 47 species gathered for the infamous survival protocol assessment. Admiral Zextar of the Crystalline Hegemony adjusted his translator device, casting a dismissive glance at the two humans seated in the corner. Another year, another human failure, he muttered to his aide. The Academy's records were clear. No human had ever passed the advanced survival simulations. They were too soft, too dependent on their technology and creature comforts. Neha Chen straightened her academy uniform and looked at her partner, Adnan Malik. They were the only human team in a room full of apex predators, warrior races, and species evolved on death worlds that made Earth look like a garden paradise. "Remember," whispered Adnan, checking his basic equipment pack, "just like camping with your grandmother." Neha smiled, thinking of the countless weekends she'd spent learning traditional recipes and foraging techniques from her nani. And like those survival courses your uncle taught back in Karachi, the simulation chamber door materialized before them, a massive portal leading to an artificially generated world. Chief Examiner Velthari, a towering insectoid being, addressed the assembled candidates. "You will be transported to Kepler 442b, a Class M world with minimal flora and fauna. You have 72 standard hours to survive. No technology beyond basic tools. No outside assistance. Most of you will fail within the first day." Her compound eyes fixed on the humans. "Some of you will fail within hours." One by one, the teams stepped through the portal. The Thangorians, apex predators from a world of eternal winter. The Molten Lords, silicon-based life forms who consumed raw minerals. The Void Stalkers who could survive in hard vacuum. Finally, Adnan and Neha stepped through. They emerged onto a windswept plateau under an alien sun. The landscape was harsh. Rocky terrain dotted with scrubby vegetation, a few twisted trees, and what looked like a dried riverbed in the distance. The other teams had already scattered, each following their species' instinctual survival strategies. "Well," said Adnan, shouldering his pack, "shall we take a walk?" While the Thangorians began hunting the few small creatures they could find, and the Crystalline Hegemony representatives tried to photosynthesize in the weak sunlight, the humans did something unexpected. They started collecting. Neha knelt beside a cluster of small purple berries. "These look like they might be related to elderberries," she said, carefully testing them against her lips first, then her tongue, following the universal edibility test her grandmother had taught her. Tart, but edible. Adnan was examining the bark of the twisted trees. "This has a camphor smell. Might be useful for preservation or medicine." He began carefully stripping small sections. "And look!" He pointed to mushroom-like growths near the base. "Those caps have gills. Probably safe if we cook them properly." As the hours passed, something remarkable happened. While other teams grew increasingly desperate, the humans began to thrive. Neha had identified 7 different edible plants, and Adnan had found a natural spring by following animal tracks to the dried riverbed. By the second day, they had established a small camp with a fire pit, food stores, and even a basic shelter. But more surprisingly, they had visitors. Velkana, a young Thangorian warrior, approached their camp first. Her species was failing. They had caught 2 small prey animals in 2 days, not enough to sustain their high metabolism. What are you cooking?" she asked, drawn by the aromatic smoke rising from their fire. "Mushroom and berry stew," Neha replied cheerfully. "Would you like to try some?" The proud warrior's stomach answered before her pride could object. That evening, Adnan demonstrated how to identify edible fungi, while Neha showed Velkana how to prepare plant fibers into cordage. By morning, 3 more species had joined their informal gathering. The crystalline beings, it turned out, could supplement their photosynthesis by consuming certain mineral-rich plants. The aquatic depths dwellers discovered that properly prepared seaweed-like vegetation could sustain them outside water far longer than expected. Even the energy-based void stalkers found that fermented fruit provided a surprisingly compatible energy source. "This is impossible," Admiral Zextar's voice crackled through the monitoring station. "The humans are teaching survival classes?" On screen, they watched Adnan demonstrate water purification techniques to a mixed group of alien species while Neha led a foraging expedition, showing participants how to test plant safety and identify nutritious roots and tubers. "The Thangorian is learning plant preparation," reported one technician, disbelief evident in their voice. "The Molten Lord is that singing?" around their campfire. By the third day, what had begun as individual survival tests had transformed into something unprecedented, an impromptu multicultural survival community, with the humans at its center. Chief Examiner Velthari materialized in their camp, just as Neha was teaching a crystalline hegemony representative how to smoke preserved berries. "The simulation is complete," she announced, her compound eyes taking in the remarkable scene. 23 different species sat around a carefully maintained fire, sharing a meal prepared with techniques from across the galaxy, taught by two humans who had not just survived, but flourished. Back in the examination chamber, the results were unprecedented. Not only had Adnan and Neha achieved the highest survival scores in Academy history, but 18 other species had passed the assessment, a success rate previously thought impossible. "How?" Admiral Zextar demanded, his crystalline form practically vibrating with confusion. Neha exchanged a glance with Adnan before answering. "Our grandparents lived through famines, wars, and forced migrations. They survived by sharing knowledge, by community, by making the most of what little they had." She gestured to their alien classmates, many still clustered around them. "Survival isn't about being the strongest or the most specialized. It's about adaptation, cooperation, and remembering that there's always something edible if you know where to look." Adnan nodded. "Plus, when you grow up hearing stories about making full meals from potato peels and grass, an alien planet with actual berries doesn't seem so bad." The Academy's most feared examination had become its most successful collaborative learning experience, all because two humans had approached survival not as a competition to be won, but as knowledge to be shared. As they prepared to leave, Velcana approached them one final time. "Will you teach more classes? Our homeworld has resources we never learned to use." Looking around at the eager faces of beings from across the galaxy, Neha smiled. "We'd be happy to. After all, everyone has to eat." And thus, the humans who had failed every previous simulation became the Academy's first official survival instructors. Not through superior strength or advanced technology, but through the simple wisdom that food shared is a future secured.